Good Tuesday morning, everyone. Today, we're going to finish up what turned out to be a 7-day kind of study on end times and what will be happening here on earth, well, and in the heavenlies during this time. And so I hope you have enjoyed it. It's a serious topic. You and I are going to spend eternity is a serious topic. How can it be anything less than that? But the Bible is very clear. Jesus is coming back, and both believers and unbelievers will stand before him. Earth's history will come to an end. He will usher in, basically, the forever heaven that you and I pray that you're a follower of Christ, will live in. How does all this that you and I have talked about these previous 6 days impact how we should live right now? Well, not surprisingly, the Bible has some very good advice for that. I don't know how you categorize them, but the first one, let me just read a verse and then let it speak to us. How about that? It's going to be Mark 13:33. Jesus speaking, and he says, "Be on guard, be alert. You do not know when that time, his return, will come." We don't know it. Later in that same chapter, Mark 13:36, he says, if he comes suddenly, don't let him find you sleeping. We're to be aware. We be watchful, looking forward, longing, by the way, longing for his return. I know at times we forget that when life is really good here, well, how could it get any better? Friends, I guarantee you, can I guarantee you something? When he comes back and takes us to heaven with him, or we're part of him setting up the millennium here on earth, it's going to be perfect. Not just better, perfect. So we're to look for it. 2 Timothy 4:8. Now there is in store for me a crown of righteousness, which the Lord, the righteous judge, will reward me on that day. And not only to me, but also all who have longed for his appearing. Paul says there's actually even one of the rewards. We talked about rewards as we stand before him yesterday. One of the rewards is just for wanting, longing, for looking forward to the return of Jesus. Friends, when you place your faith in him and he is your Savior, he's everything, of course we should long, desire to be with him. But we are also to be patient, In James chapter 5, verse 8, James writes, you also, be patient and stand firm, because the Lord's coming is near. It's near. It's near. It's at least, it's 2,000 years more near than it was when that was written. We don't actually know when it will be, but we do know that the signs are there. In Matthew 24:14, it says, Jesus said that this gospel will need to be preached to all ethnicities, and then the end will come. Where do we stand on that? Where do we stand? Well, there's 12,000 ethnicities in the world. About 25 years ago, 6,000 had been reached with the gospel. But in these 25 years, that number has been dwindled down by the concerted effort of the church. This has become a goal, and God has blessed it, and he has empowered it. And right now, there are under 50 groups, ethnicities in the whole world, language groups, tribes, ethnicities. There's under 50 that don't have the gospel being shared actively within them right now. And the vast majority of those have believers in them. And Jesus said, and then the end will come. How are we also to live right now? Well, he tells us that one of the things is that we should live with the end in sight and live holy lives. Holy lives. 2 Peter chapter 3 says, since everything will be destroyed in this way, what kind of people ought you to be? In light of the fact that Jesus is coming soon, what type of people ought you to be? And he says, you ought to live holy and godly lives as you look forward to the day of God, and speed its coming. That day is coming soon. And in the meantime, while we hear here, he's just saying, he's encouraging us to live godly and holy lives. Why? Because God is holy, and he wants us to be living lives like him. Never can do it perfectly, but aren't you thankful that Jesus' blood covers those sins when we do sin? I want to close these 7 days by reading what John, the one who got the right revelation and to see into heaven and to share all these things. What does he recommend for the way we ought to live today while we're still on this side of Jesus coming back? And he says, 22 at 8 and 9, he says, I, John, he calls out who he is, am the one who heard and saw all these things in Revelation. And when I had heard and seen them, I fell down to worship at the feet of the angel who had been showing them to me. But the angel said to me, do not do it. The angel says, I am a fellow servant with you and with your brothers and prophets and of all who keep the words of this book. Worship God. That's what the angel said. That's what the Apostle John wanted to write. He wanted us to worship God. Friends, there is nothing more important in your life than to take advantage of the time we have and to worship God. Yes, we're going to worship him for eternity, but right now is the preparation for eternity. And if it's good for us then, it's obviously good for us now. There's no better summation of the study of end times than those two powerful words. Worship God. Worship God. It breaks my heart when I hear people say, I couldn't come to worship this week for whatever the reason. I needed to go to lunch, or it was cloudy and I was concerned it might rain, or whatever it is. No. Obviously, there are reasons that you can't come on a certain day, on a certain Sunday, of course. But friends, we ought to be much stricter on what it is that would stop us from doing the most important thing in our life in light of his returning. Worship God. Worship God. We'll leave it at that. And we have some really interesting and helpful next few days. It'll help your life. Thank you. I'll see you tomorrow.
Come to the Father through Jesus the Son, and give